Good morning, all students. Thank you very much for coming to these contact classes, which based on the assignment. And the contact class is for natural science and health too. My name is Maria Shipandene, and I welcome you all. The aim of this contact class is actually just, as I said, it's based on the assignment for 2018. It's actually to give you, to take you through the questions that are asked and give you a little bit of hints on how to answer the questions. It's also through this through this presentation, also give you hints of the type of questions that are asked and the content. If there is any time available, I'll take you through a few of the materials that I actually prepared, some content, just maybe 2 slides or 1. And thank you very much. If we can start, as I said, this is actually natural science and health 2, and I'm your tutor, Maria Shipandene. And you can see my email as well as my phone number there. Just in case you have questions, you can call me at 081-2612-950. 081-2612-950, or you can always email me to shipandenim@yahoo.co.uk. shipandenim@yahoo.co.uk. So actually, let me start with instructions and information to just your information to candidates about the assignments. So you asked to answer all the questions, as you asked to answer all the questions and number your questions correctly. The number should correlate also to your table of content, as you make a table of content, and write neatly and very tidy. We want to see very tidy work, otherwise it's very difficult to see what belongs where if the assignment is in a mess. So write neatly and tidy works are very required. And when you have finished the assignment, make sure that all your answer sheets are fastened or stapled securely so we don't miss some pages. And remember to go through your assignments again for the last time just before you submit them. Just make sure that you go through the assignments or the questions and the answers just to make sure that you are satisfied with your answers before you actually submit your assignment. And now I'm going to take you through the questions. And as I said, this assignment is actually assignment for 2018. So I'll actually take you through the questions for assignments 2018. So the first question, that is question 1, is actually based, as you know, that your content or your module is actually having different units. And so the question 1 is actually from the unit of self-esteem, peer pressure, and subsistence use. Self-esteem is based on self-esteem, peer pressure, and subsistence abuse. So you have question 1, which is actually having question 1.1 to 1.4. So question 1.1 is actually just asking you to define the term self-esteem. So what is self-esteem really? So what you are asked here is to define the term self-esteem. What is self-esteem? So you just need to provide the definition. By the definition, define the term self-esteem. It's weighing 2 marks. And 1.2, question 1.2, it's actually asking you to mention 8 factors that affect the self-esteem of learners at school. So what are the 5 factors that affect self-esteem of learners at school? So self-esteem can be affected by a number of factors. So write the eight factors that affect the self-esteem of learners at school. So the first question is actually just asking you to define the term self-esteem, and in question 1.2 you are asked to actually mention 5 factors that are affecting the self-esteem of learners at school, and that question is weighing 8 marks. So question 1.3, as I said, these questions are actually based on peer pressure, self-esteem, and subsistence use. So question 1.3 is actually on peer pressure. So the question is, discuss how best learners can resist negative peer pressure. As you know, peer pressure, you have positive peer pressure and there is negative peer pressure. So our concern here is on the negative peer pressure, and the question is, discuss how best learners can resist negative peer pressure. As you know, negative peer pressure can influence learners to do or to get involved in negative activities or bad habits, like maybe substance use, for instance, alcohol abuse, and not respecting parents, or just being picking up very negative attitudes or negative habits. So how best you as a teacher can advise learners, or how best learners can actually resist to negative peer pressure. So the question 1.3 discuss how best learners can resist to negative peer pressure, and that is actually 5 marks. And question 1.4 is discuss how school programs would assist in the prevention of substance abuse among learners. You know, we have issues of substance abuse. So how can your school, how can school programs actually assist in the prevention of substance abuse, either alcohol abuse or drug abuse? So how can school programs actually help us in the prevention of substance abuse, alcohol abuse or drug abuse? So that question is out of 10 marks, just for you to discuss how school programs will actually assist or can assist in the prevention of substance abuse among the learners. So that is actually 10 marks. So question 1, in total question 1 is actually weighing 25 marks. That's why you have 25 marks there. So that question 1 is from self-esteem, peer pressure, and substance abuse. As I read the questions, you have noticed that they are all from that section. So you are just asked to answer all those questions. Out of all of them are out of 25 marks, but each question got its own mark. 10 marks for 1.4, where you have to discuss the school programs that will actually assist in the preventions of drug abuse or alcohol abuse among the learners, and so forth. So that is actually about question 1. And then we move on to question 2. Question 2 is actually about teaching and teaching strategies. So question 2.1 is asking you to discuss 5 good principles. Discuss 5 good principles that teachers should bear in mind when they have to manage sensitive questions, especially when a topic related to sexuality is actually taught in class. So what are the good principles that a teacher should actually bear in mind when they are handling these sensitive topics? Sensitive topics, sensitive questions, especially when sexuality is taught in classroom. So discuss 5 good principles that a teacher should bear in mind when they have to manage sensitive questions, especially when a topic that is related to sexuality is taught in the classroom. So you just have to discuss the good principles that a teacher should take in mind or should bear in mind. And that question is actually out of 10 marks. So it's about discussing. So you just don't have to point out the good principles, but you should discuss those principles. And then question 2.2, explain various ways which teachers can actually or may use to help adolescents to handle negative emotions. There are negative emotions. Adolescents go through a lot of things and they have to handle some negative emotions. So now here you are actually as a teacher, explain various ways that that teachers may use to help adolescents to handle negative emotions. So explain various ways which teachers may use to help adolescents to handle negative emotions. That's out of 8. Question 2.3. 2.3 is actually asking you to explain 3 teaching strategies which could be used for teaching about acceptable behaviors toward others in daily situation. So there are actually various teaching strategies, as you know, but then here you are actually asked to discuss or to explain 3 teaching strategies. That's explain 3 teaching strategies which could be used for teaching about acceptable behaviors toward others in daily situation. Which teaching strategies do you think are going to be helpful when teaching about acceptable behavior toward others in daily situation? So you are just asked to explain these teaching strategies which could be used for teaching about acceptable behaviors toward others in daily situation, and it's out of 6 marks. So one for each strategies and another mark for each explanation. So each strategy and its explanation is actually weighing 2. So as you can see, they have 6 marks there. So 3 teaching strategies and explain each strategies, and then you have your 6 marks. And then question 2.4. Question 2.4 is actually asking you to describe the large group discussion teaching methods. There are actually different teaching methods, but here you ask describe the large group teaching method and how you carry out that method successfully in a classroom. So discuss the large group discussion teaching method. What does it entails? What does the large group discussion teaching method actually entails? What is it? So you describe it and then you explain how you will execute it successfully in your classroom. So as you know, maybe sometimes when you are teaching, you need to apply this method, that is the large group discussing method. So you describe that what the large group discussion teaching method is all about, and then you explain how you can, or you just tell us how you execute it successfully in the classroom. So question 2, it got 2.1 to 2.4, so there is 4 questions under question 2, and all in total that question is actually weighing 30 marks. And we have question 3. Question 3 is about distillation process and sunlight. So question 3 is from that units that are on distillation process and sunlight. So question 3.1 is describe ways of distilling and the application of it in different industry. You have different industry, and in most of this industry they use this process of distillation. So describe ways of distilling and the application of it in different industry. You just describe ways of distilling and the application of it in different industry. Question 3.2 is with relevant examples. With relevant example, explain the effect of pulling and pushing forces. Explain the effect of pulling and pushing forces. So you have to explain the effect of pulling and pushing forces, and for each effect you have to give an example. Therefore, that's why you are given 5 marks for each effect that you mention and 5 marks for each example that you have mentioned, that you will mention. That means for each effect you have to give its example. So each effect and its example, like these forces they do and then example, you provide the example of each. So you have 10 marks in total, 5 marks for effects and 5 marks for each example that you give. And the question read is, I'll repeat again, with relevant example of each, give or explain the effect of pulling and pushing forces. Explain the effect of pulling and pushing forces. So you have a total of 10 marks, but the marks are divided in a way that you have 5 marks for each effect and 5 marks for each example. So when you are going to answer this question, don't forget to give an example of each effect that you are going to mention. Otherwise, you are going to lose a mark because each effect got its example and a mark for an example that you are going to give. Question 3.3 is about experiments. So design a practical experiment to demonstrate to learners that light is a mixture of different colors which can be separated by using a prisma. So you have to design a practical example just to demonstrate. For instance, you are teaching about sunlight, and that is a mixture of different colors. I know it can be separated by different ways. It can be separated in different ways, like for instance using even a compact disc. But here you are asked to describe how to make it to do a practical demonstration on how you can teach your learners how sunlight is a mixture of different colors using, and then in this context you are asked to use a prisma. So you have to mention the materials that you need and actually explain the method. Clearly indicate the material that you are going to use for you to demonstrate this to learners, and then you have to also write the method how you are going to carry out this experiment. So write the method, design the method, write the method, how you are going to carry out this experiment, and go through the method. Right? What materials are you going to have? So what do you need for you to demonstrate this to learners? And then you have to give the method also. How are you going to explain to learners to demonstrate that sunlight is a mixture of different colors that can be separated by prisma? Question 3.4 is about lightning. So explain why lightning is regarded as a form of static electricity. So explain why lightning is actually regarded as a form of static electricity. So you know the difference. I don't want to talk about the other type of electricity, but here it's about static electricity. So you need to explain why lightning is actually regarded as a form of static electricity. Then we move on to question 4. Before we move on to question 4, I just want to tell you that this question 3 is out of 35 marks. So you have different marks for each. So that try to make sure that you answer the questions correctly and follow the instructions and give examples when they are required. Out of 35 marks for question 3, and each question it got 1 to 4. And each question has its own marks. So question 4. Question 4 is from the units of ecosystem, recycling, as well as air pollution. So it's about ecosystem, recycling, and air pollution. So question 4 is actually asking you, question 4.1, outline 4 human activities that influence the ecosystem negatively. So underline the word negatively. So what you ask here is actually just to outline or list 4 human activities that influence the ecosystem negatively. Outline 4 human activities that influences the ecosystem negatively. So question 4.2 is discuss the importance of recycling of materials. So why do we need to recycle materials in Namibia? So what is the reason behind? Why discuss the importance? Why is it important to recycle materials in Namibia? So discuss the importance of recycling materials in Namibia. Actually, that question is weighing 8 marks. So just to discuss the reason why should we recycle materials in Namibia. Discuss the importance of recycling materials in Namibia. And question 4.3, explain how sustained exposure to polluted air and smoke can damage human lungs. Explain how sustained exposure to polluted air and smoke can damage human lungs. So we do have people smoking. We are actually exposed to polluted air. So what you are asked here is just to explain how the sustained exposure to polluted air and smoke can actually be harmful or can damage the human lungs. How can it damage our lungs? So explain how sustained exposure to polluted air and smoke or smoking as well can actually damage human lung. The smoke, polluted air or smoke can actually damage human lungs. So explain how sustained exposure to polluted air and smoke can actually damage the human lungs, out of 10 marks. And then question 4.4, list the distinct stages that amphibia go through during their life cycle. You know that animals, living organisms, animals go through cycles during their life cycle. So they go through stages during their life cycle. So here you ask about amphibia. I hope you know the family of amphibia like frogs and so forth. So list the distinct stages that amphibia go through during their life cycle. So you just have to list the distinct stages that amphibia go through during their life cycle, and that's actually question 4. So question 4 is also having 4 questions, 1 to 4, and in total it's weighing 25 marks. And as I said, you have different questions in that section, in that section, and then each question gets its own marks. But all in all, question 4 is weighing 25 marks. And I'm moving on to human body. Question 5. Question 5 is about human body and health. So human body and health, and it got 2 questions. Question 5.1, it describes basic functions of the part of the circulatory system. You know, we have the human body is made up different systems. So here you are asked to describe basic functions of the part of the circulatory system, and it's weighing 8 marks. So you just give the parts of the circulatory system and what are the basic functions of those parts of the circulatory system. Question 5.2. 5.2 is about discuss how common diseases such as cough discuss how common diseases such as cough can be prevented in Namibia. How can we prevent cough in Namibia? So discuss how common diseases such as cough can be prevented in Namibia. So question 5 is only 2 questions, and in total is weighing 15 marks. So you have 8 marks for question 5.1, and then you have 7 marks for 5.2. So the first question is just about the circulatory system. You actually mention the parts and discuss their functions, and then questions 5.2 is about the common disease like cough. How can it be prevented? So it's weighing, in total you have 130 marks for the assignment, and I just want to give you some important notes as far as assignment is concerned. The assignment was actually structured, as you have noticed probably, that you have it uses the following verbs. There is some that are saying mention, define, name, list, distinguish, compare, etc. And then you have essays, questions that are more about explaining and discussing, and they have a total of 130 marks. So you should pay attention to your learning outcome of each unit when you are answering these questions, as you know that each unit has its own learning outcome. So as I structured the question, you know where these questions are actually coming from. So use your units, your study guides actually to help you answer the questions, and read the instructions very carefully and answer all the questions and write neatly. And to take you through, the due date is 15 January 2018, and I just want to take you through the content a little bit. So with regards to the content, I said about the peer pressure. Peer pressure is not all bad at time, depend on what type of peer pressure it is. We have negative peer pressure, and there is actually positive peer pressure. The benefit of positive peer pressure, or doing things in peers or in mates, like people in the same age groups, they develop social skills. It's also important to enhance their relationships. They gain sense of belonging, and they are motivated to achieve. For instance, if in case of positive peer pressure, they are actually motivated to achieve, as they are encouraging each other to do good and to work hard. They also learn communication skills and also learn cooperations and some roles and rules. So, but then we have actually negative peer pressure that actually lead to somebody to get involved in this disturbing negative behaviors in learners. And so what we have to do is just to make sure that our learners and family members, kids or whatever, they are aware of these peer pressure, the difference between the negative and the peer pressure, and they are able actually to say no when they feel pressured to do something that they don't want. So we have to tell them on how to resist negative peer pressure. And about human body, as I said in summary, the human body is actually made up of 11 important organ systems: circulatory, respiratory, the digestive, excretory, nervous, and the endocrine system. And they also include immune system, muscle, reproductive system, and so forth, as you can see on the figure below on your slide. So the circulatory system is actually responsible for transporting material throughout the body. So either nutrients, water, oxygen. So it carry out it transport the material throughout the body. So it's very important. So as you see that the circulatory system, the components, there is heart, blood vessels, and vessels you have artery, veins, and capillary, and each of those actually perform very important function in our body. So it's each system, be it the excretory system, the muscle system, and reproductive system, or so forth, they are all playing a major role in our body. Circulatory system, they have components such as heart, blood vessels, and vessels you have arteries, vein, and capillary, and each of those components actually perform very important functions in our body. Thank you very much, and my name is Maria Spandeni, and you have my contact details there. 0812612950. In case you have questions, you can always call me at that number, or you can email me at shipandanim@yahoo.co.uk, as I gave it before. And I wish you all the best with your assignments, and good luck.